Let's talk about early opportunities here, because this is helping folks get right off the ground. Story out of Dayton, not Daytona.
Dayton, Ohio.
I had car racing on the brain for a moment there.
Mm-hmm.
DaytonDailyNews.com talks about retail lab incubators, and it's cool because it also references the early success of their pop-up shop program. So it's almost like they had two programs going. The retail lab builds on this success. It brings the focus even further to providing resources to entrepreneurs who are either already down here trying to find a way in the downtown market. So it's built off of a market as well. I've always referred to farmers markets as I guess outside of your basement or your garage, they're your second incubator.
Right.
But your thoughts, Dan, on just, I'll say, the topic of incubation, and should more retailers, should more communities be doing this to help their retailers get off the ground? What are your thoughts?
100% yes. Oh gosh, yes. And almost every community has some level of incubation or collaboration for retail. In St. Albert, I think we have the Collective, which brings together, different people, in a space. And I think that what I liked about this story, a few things, but one of the things that really stood out was, that the downtown core was saying, hey, we've got to help entrepreneurs, and we've got to help our retailers, and we've got to give them a way to get in front of people, and not just get in front of people with their product, but get in front of people with the experience and coach them and guide them and help them. Incubation is nothing new. Incubation is, this idea of collaborative services, collaborative support for each other in a single place. We look at NABI in Northern Alberta, the business incubation. Yeah. I get an office, I get a boardroom, I get some services, and it helps to incubate my business. It puts me in a little bubble, gives me some level of protection, and allows me to grow and expand and really understand what I need to do. And in this case, they're bringing in entrepreneurial experts, and giving some guidance to retail. And we see these kinds of collaborative pop-ups happen all over the place. West Edmonton Mall did a collaborative pop-up, where they did a small incubation, a small pop-up, 12 stores over holiday, and they park them in the center of the mall, and they say, here's a space, here's all the services that you need to bring in your products and sell. And I think that the Carmazians did it in Mall of America, they did it here, and we see it all over the place. And I we need more incubation. And this idea, that I have to pay so much attention to my competition instead of, collaborating and removing competition in my community. Not removing it, but protecting myself, from the negative that competition can sometimes bring, by focusing more on collaboration. And that's really what this is about. It is incubation, but it is at a collaborative level.
When you you talked earlier about that, where it's going to be a challenging summer, challenging year. There's going to be closures. When you look at the incubation side, an idea that thought pops into my head is this a role that municipalities can play, where they can go out to the commercial landlords and say, look, we'll be your AAA rent in some areas, but we want to help incubate some pop-ups, and we'll give them a hand for a few months, but they're going to pay. There's nothing free. There's going to be a lot of empty spaces out there. Is this a tactic that might help fill that space?
I think it is a tactic that will help. And if we have this idea, so on the municipalities, 100%, yes, absolutely. We should be going back to economic development and saying to the economic development arms in our communities, let's come up with a way. Let's strategize how we can put some retailers, in business. Let's take some empty space and do a collaboration or do a collective, and do it on percentage rent. Nothing is free, and we don't need a hand out. We need a hand up. Right, to help some of these retailers. And the municipalities could easily do this. There's enough vacancy today, and there's going to be more vacancy, that we could go out to businesses or prospective businesses and say, hey, this is what we've created, as the Edmonton Economic Development division, or the St. Albert Economic Development Division. This is what we've done, and we can collaborate together. We can pull together a community of 3 or 4 services or retailers, which kind of happens in a lot of markets. That's what the market does. It brings together people in their ideal pop-up locations.
Well,
I'll tell you, Steve Brooks was Steve Brooks was a guest on our podcast late last year, and he is the pop-up expert, and he's going to tell you this exact same thing, and that's a good guy to follow, retailers. Follow Steve Brooks, the pop-up expert, and listen to some of the pop-up, advice that he's giving, free advice that he's giving. This is how you test, get into a space, where you're not tied in, where it is a collaborative environment.
I think of another guest you had on the Wealthy Retailer in St. Albert, Rob Tryon, who owns Effing Seafoods.
Yes.
He started literally the back. Well, I don't want to say it's back of the truck or van, but at farmers markets, he built it on his own to the point where he picked up a significant piece of real estate in St. Albert, and he's full brick and mortar. Did not abandon the pop-up. That's still a big part of his operation, but he's a pretty go-get-'em type of guy.
For sure.
And I guess when I look at what's happening, I just really hope those economic development authorities, the municipalities, don't sit back and just wait for those go-getters. I think they need to get in front of them, go walk. St. Albert's got one of the biggest markets in Western Canada. Like walking each booth and say, what's your next plan? How can we help you open your brick and mortar store? And I bet how many farmers markets have asked that question.
No question. And the thing about this one in this St. Albert farmers market, it's driven, it's managed, it's owned by the St. Albert Chamber of Commerce. Their job is to support their mission. One of their missions is to support business, advocate for that small to medium-sized businesses. And there's no reason that they shouldn't be, trying to promote permanent space in this pop-up environment. And there's a lot of potential retailers, at that market. I don't know how many hundred vendors they've got now.